Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into a story, an online story that, believe it or not, started with something as simple as a packed cooler. But it spiraled into this huge, messy debate online about family, about abuse, and really about those blurry lines. You know, the ones we cross when we think we're trying to help.
So this was the title of the post that just blew up on Reddit's Am I the Asshole subreddit. Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? But it is just packed with drama. And to really get why everyone was so fired up, we've got to go back, right back to the moment that lit the fuse.
So, how did it all begin? Well, it started with something that seems, pretty minor on the surface. The original poster, we'll just call him the OP, had their in-laws over. Just a normal family visit, right? Wrong. One really loud argument from another room, and suddenly the whole situation changed.
The OP is just hanging out in another room when they start hearing shouting. But here's the kicker, and this is a really important detail. The OP mentioned they're half-deaf. So for them to hear this fight through a closed door, you can only imagine how loud and intense it must have been. We're not talking about a little disagreement here.
And this was the line, the point of no return. Hearing their father-in-law call their mother-in-law stupid. And for what? Packing a cooler? That was it. That's what made the OP just snap. They stormed into the room, and that's when the real confrontation kicked off.
So, the father-in-law, his first move is to try and shut it down. He's like, hey, we've been married for 50 years. This is how we work things out. Basically, mind your own business. But the OP, they weren't having any of it. Their response was simple and direct. You're in my house, so it's my way or the highway. The location made all the difference.
And it just keeps escalating from there. The father-in-law then tries to justify it, saying she was being stupid, so he had to say it. He's trying to blame her. But the OP just fires back. No, you made a choice, and it was the wrong one, especially in my house. They're not letting him shift the blame at all.
Okay, so you might be thinking, a fight over a cooler. It just seems so trivial. How does that lead to this massive family blow-up? Well, you've probably already guessed it. This was never really about the cooler. To get why the OP reacted so strongly, we need to peel back the onion here and look at some pretty dark and troubled family history. Yeah, so the OP later added an update to their post, and it revealed that this blow-up was anything but random. Nope, this was the culmination, the boiling point of almost 20 years of things going downhill. This history of escalating problems, it really puts that cooler incident into a whole new, much darker light. In this context, it's everything. The OP mentions they've known the father-in-law since 2004, back when he was, in their words, a decent man. But over the years, and it sounds like alcoholism was a huge factor, his behavior just completely fell apart. We're not just talking about him being grumpy or yelling. No, it escalated to a DUI with a crazy high blood alcohol level and even, get this, a direct threat to strangle the OP in their sleep. So yeah, this is serious.
On top of all those behavioral issues, their living situation was also a huge problem. The OP described it as basically a health hazard. We're talking a hoarder house where rooms and even the shower were totally inaccessible. They were both missing their medications, and each of them was drinking at least a full bottle of alcohol every single day. The situation was clearly in a complete nosedive way before this cooler thing ever happened. So, after that huge fight, the OP and their wife sat down with the mother-in-law. You might think they'd be there to comfort her, but it wasn't really a conversation. It was an ultimatum. And this right here is probably the most controversial part of the whole story.
Now, to really feel the weight of what the OP threatened, you gotta understand what adult custodianship or guardianship actually is. It's a serious legal process. A court has to get involved, and it basically lets one person make all the personal and financial decisions for another adult who's been deemed incapable of managing their own life. It is an extreme measure, to say the least.
And the OP didn't just, throw this threat out there. They laid out a whole case plan. The main goal was to get the mother-in-law to stop being the father-in-law's only caretaker. They suggested options, like getting home health care or hiring a caretaker. But here's the consequence. If she didn't do it, the OP would go for that adult custodianship for both of them and put them in separate care homes. And according to the OP, the mother-in-law actually agreed to this.
So as you can imagine, when this story hit the internet, people were divided fiercely. The big question was, is the OP a hero for stepping in, or are they just another villain in this whole toxic family drama?
The Reddit comments pretty much split right down the middle into two main camps. You had the NTA, or not the asshole crowd, who thought the OP was totally justified. And then you had the ESH, or everyone sucks here group, who felt the OP's tactics were, well, just as bad. Let's break down what each side was arguing.
Okay, so the not the asshole side, they saw the OP as this absolute legend. They were like, finally, someone stood up to him. Their argument was that verbal abuse is domestic violence, plain and simple. And the OP was right to finally draw that hard line in the sand, especially since it seemed like no one else was going to.
But then you have the other side, the everyone sucks here camp. And they zeroed in on that ultimatum. Their point was, look, when you threaten an abuse victim, the mother-in-law, to get her to do what you want, you're not helping. You're just becoming another abuser. They saw it as fighting fire with fire, or really, fighting abuse with more abuse.
And really, the whole debate boils down to this one conflict. Was this a righteous, necessary use of force to protect someone who couldn't protect herself? Or did the OP's methods just make them as controlling as the guy they were trying to stop? Was it a wake-up call? Or was it just a different kind of control? The internet just could not land on an answer.
And that's the really tricky question at the heart of this whole thing, isn't it? It leaves you wondering, to stop abuse, can you become an abuser yourself? It makes you think about the lines we're willing to cross and whether the ends can ever really justify the means, especially when you're just trying to protect the people you love.